What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the PAT. Today I want to touch on a few subjects before later I upload a video of the predictions of Super Wildcard Weekend. Going to be some crazy games. Definitely that one up in Kansas City. We'll touch on that in this episode, and then we'll get the prediction out later. But basically just want to touch on Jerod Mayo and Robert Kraft coming to the agreement in the contract that he will be the succession plan, and they finalized that today. I want to talk about the Miami Dolphins and Kansas City Chiefs game and the temperatures and how the league approached that. And then lastly, I want to touch on refs and how we see it every year come playoff time, how they can impact the game. So I'll touch on those three things. And we'll start off with Jerod Mayo. So this morning woke up and, as usual, checked NFL.com first thing, especially during this time with the Patriots, all the buzz going on, free agency. I'll always check in my phone for NFL.com right away. I know they say you shouldn't go on your phone, like the first hour you wake up, but listen, this week and the week of free agency, I think, are exceptions. So I checked it out. Main headline, Jerod Mayo hired as New England Patriots head coach. And I got to say, I'm here for it. Following the Patriots throughout my whole life, I obviously know who Jerod Mayo is. And he's a great linebacker for us. I see a lot of people, wishing that we did Vrabel or maybe a young offensive coach. And there's two sides to that. It's like, okay, if you didn't think Mayo was ready and you did bring in Vrabel, who is a great candidate, how do you think that would make Mayo feel? Imagine signing a contract at the place you work, saying that you will be the next boss at the highest position. So if you're at a department store, you'll be the store manager when this coach retires / gets fired. And then he does the following year, you sign the contract, and they hire somebody else because they don't think you're ready. And you're going to feel betrayed. And not only is that's not the main reason why I believe they gave it to Jerod. I do believe that the most important thing for the NFL and coaching in general, or leadership, as a manager, as a coach, as a, like chief fire general or police officer, you have to be a leader of men and women. And in the NFL, mostly men. And these guys aren't just men. These are alpha males at the highest standard of all humans. These are genetic freaks. These are guys who are millionaires. They all have families. It's not like college where you're mentoring young men into adulthood at that final step. These are grown-ass men. They have families. They have a job, which is, their job in the NFL to put food on their table. Like, they're mature. So they can spot BS. And if you're phony and you're not authentic, highly doubtful that you're going to garner any type of respect in that locker room. And that's the biggest thing. You hear it all the time, like, oh, locker room's not behind him. Oh, the players don't want to play for him. You wonder how true stuff like that is, but you saw it with the Chargers this year. 4 days before Brandon Staley got fired, he was at a press conference saying, if my players quit on me, we'd be getting blown out. But we're not. We're always in these games. 4 days later, blown out, 63-21. And it wasn't even that close. So you do see it. And, Jerod Mayo's a leader of men. That's his number one characteristic that's been coming out. Now, obviously, in college, it's more about the Jimmies and Joes than the X's and O's. NFL, you got to scheme good. So that is a huge question mark. Who's going to be the defensive coordinator? Names like DeMarcus Covington and Steve Belichick were flown out there. I'd imagine Steve Belichick goes with his dad, but you never know. And then OC, there's Bill O'Brien, and we wonder what that relationship is like with Jerod. Don't really know. Josh McDaniels, I'd imagine, would go with Bill as well. And then there's out-of-house candidates. The plus side to McDaniels and Bill, if you feel like they're right, which I'm undecided, it obviously depends on what quarterback we're aiming for, but with Bill O'Brien and Josh McDaniels, they're not going to get hired probably for at least 5 years for another head coaching job. McDaniels probably never, and Bill O'Brien, I'd imagine, would have a tough go at becoming head coach again. So you don't have to worry about a guy like Bobby Slowick or, in the past, like Matt LaFleur with Mike Vrabel. It's like 1-2 years of success, they're out of there. And then you got to start the process over. So that is the plus side. The other thing is Jerod Mayo is 37 years old, and his big thing is we want him to usher in the modern era of football for the New England Patriots. And is going with Josh McDaniels and Bill O'Brien a step towards that? I'm not sure it is. So we'll have to see where that all goes. I'd like to, hear his press conference whenever that comes out. See how he carries himself in probably the biggest interview/meeting of his life. But I'm really curious to see what we do in free agency. Like, how are we attacking the roles of our team? We got a lot of holes on offense. Our defense is pretty good. We do have some players to re-sign. And we'll see how that goes in the re-signing stage. Certain guy like Anthony Jennings, Mac Wilson. Let's see. Who else is on that? Barmore's not up this year, but he's going to need a contract. Kyle Duggar. These are guys you wonder, do they want to go with Bill? Do they want to just go somewhere else, or do they want to return and play for Mayo? I know the linebackers love him, so I'd imagine somebody like Mac Wilson will be back, and he kind of showed up later in the year. So that's a plus. And we'll see how we attack it. We need to get a quarterback in the draft. Like, we're in a rebuild stage. I think some people think, like, oh, Mayo's in, nice, he's going to get us back to the playoffs. It might be a couple years. It might be next year because we do have a good defense, and I think we got more pieces than people give us credit for. It might be 2, it might be 3. We got to be patient with this. This is a rebuild. There's a lot of holes in this roster. There's a lot of holes in the coaching staff, and there's potentially, especially with Bill leaving and who he's going to bring. And then we don't really know what our front office is like because Bill's been doing it all. And, yeah, he has people that, give him advice and stuff like that. But Bill's been making most of the decisions. So we don't even know what our front office is like, if they're good or they're bad, because he's been overruling a lot of stuff. So we got a lot of questions to be answered. We got to be patient. And we'll see how it all goes. I have faith in Robert Kraft, and I have faith in Jerod Mayo. And he's got the number one quality that you need, which is leadership. So it starts there, and then it all flows downhill. And I'm looking forward to it. Another little plus side is Robert Kraft and Jerod Mayo. A little Kraft Mayo. My buddy texted me that today. He's a Raiders fan. He's like, I want to be the first person to make a Kraft Mayo joke with you. And I hadn't even thought about it. And I think it's beautiful. So, a little match made in heaven there. And, yeah, we'll see how it goes. Moving on to the Miami Dolphins versus Kansas City Chiefs. I live in Bozeman, Montana, and currently it is negative 15 degrees outside. Feels like negative 30. I know exactly what these guys are in for Saturday night. And I got to say, I'm glad I'm not in that game, okay? I've dealt with colder days. My first year here was negative 38. It was colder here than in Antarctica. I know what the cold is like, and I grew up in Florida, so I know both extremes. The cold is definitely tougher to deal with than the heat. And the worst heat is Arizona. I lived there for a year in Phoenix. Like, hell no. Humidity, I could care less. I do not want that dry oven heat that is in Arizona. I'll take Florida every day. Plus, the breeze is cool. Freaking Arizona, you roll down your window, you feel like you just opened up an oven on 500 degrees. But the cold makes everything so difficult. I did appliance installs for about a year and a half. And you would think that on a foot of snow at negative 30 degrees, which is a terrible combo because it usually doesn't even snow that much when it gets that cold, but we've had them. And our boss expects us to go out there and work, and we did. You got to use your it's terrible. So I understand working in the cold. It's horrible. That said, I was getting paid $28, $30 an hour. These dudes are getting paid millions of dollars. Plus, and the breaks that they'll have with heaters. I mean, you're telling me these guys can't afford the best on the market heated, thermal wear? That's not going to slow you down, and you'll stay warm. That's what I'd be doing. I don't like how the league has approached it with possibly moving it, at least floating the idea. I don't know how serious they were. One, colder games have been played, and they made them. They made it out just fine. Two, well, what the hell, like, no home field advantage now? You're just going to move it to a dome? Like, that's dumb. And all the people that had tickets to go to the game, that's unfair. And three, how does it set a precedent in the future when we have cold games in the future? Are we going to move every single one? Too much snow, we can't play? I just think it's ridiculous. These guys get paid millions of dollars. They have all the equipment. They have all the technology to stay as warm as possible. And it's not like they're just standing at a construction site spotting, a guy driving a skid steer or, working a excavator, making sure they don't hit gas lines or something like that. Like, these guys are moving. And when they're not, they're in those massive coats standing right next to heaters. So they'll be fine. I do feel bad for the Dolphins. They're kind of getting the shaft so far this year. Like, they started off so hot, and then you saw it. Jalen Phillips goes down. Then Jalen Waddle gets hurt. Then Raheem Mostert gets hurt. Then Connor Williams gets hurt. I mean, they're just like, they're losing. Devon Achane got hurt for a little bit. Even Jalen Ramsey started off the year injured, and now Xavier Howard is. I mean, they're just getting the shaft so bad. And you feel bad for them because that team does have a lot of potential. But their season ended when they lost home field advantage. Because if they'd have won that game, they'd be in sunny Miami, Florida, playing the Bills again, who now they have the confidence to beat because they just did. Instead, they lost. Now they're playing in negative-degree weather in Kansas City, a stadium that's already notoriously difficult to play in, and now they got to play in negative weather. And it's not like they're a pounding ground team like the Niners or the freaking Ravens. Like, they're an air raid spread system. They love throwing the ball. Now, granted, speed does travel, so that it's not like they're going to be completely inept. It's just not ideal. And it's not ideal for the Kansas City Chiefs, but they do have Isaiah Pacheco, and they are more used to that weather. And their defense is better than the Miami Dolphins. So we'll see how that goes all out. I'll have my prediction later. Looking forward to that game. It's going to be kind of fun. I'll be able to take my dogs on a quick walk, like at halftime, kind of get a little more submersive experience with the players. And so it'll be, and my girlfriend's a Chiefs fan. Listen. She wasn't when we first started dating, so don't give me any crap, okay? But yeah, we'll see how that goes. And then lastly, I want to talk about referees. So seemingly every year it gets worse. But every year in the playoffs, there's always at least one game, it feels like, comes down to a questionable call. Last year it just happened to be the Super Bowl with that hold. And it's like, yeah, technically he kind of held him, but he didn't affect the route that much. I mean, you can tell. It's like if you get hit by a little wave in the ocean, it just bounces off your leg. You get hit by a big wave, you fall over. That was a small hold versus a legit hold where the running motion stops. It didn't affect anything, and it was overthrown. So you hate to see it, and you know they have the technology with these rapid reviews and these on-field calls, something like the 12 men on the field or the possession on the catch. Like, these things, they're sent to them real quick. It's like, hey, yeah, that's actually a catch. Move it, reset the clock to this time. Or there was 12 men on the field, throw the flag. Why can't they do that? And I'm not saying every play look for penalties through the box. Like, you're having penalties on every single play. But tell the refs, if you legitimately think there's a flag, throw it and then we will decipher it all in the time that we see it in the replay before they even make the fucking call. So you're telling me they can't just have a guy up in the box get that replay right away and radio down to the ref before he makes the call? It would stop no time, and it would save so many issues. It would take 16 people per week, or you might even be able to get four people to do 4 games each, because there's 32 teams, so that's 16 games. 4 people, 4 games each on call for that type of stuff. You know, maybe you start with 8 people to see if you could do it with 4, but I'm sure there's people that would do it. Take a ref off the field. Take the guy that's in the middle of the fucking defense off the field. I mean, why is he there? First of all, he's incredibly unathletic every time. The guys are flying around him. I mean, what an annoying thing for a quarterback if you're doing play action, linebacker steps up, if you got an RPO or an over, and the fucking referee's there. It's like, yeah, I guess they have played it with their whole life and it never seems to be an issue, but it just seems kind of silly. I mean, you saw it in the Niners and Ravens. Lamar, I don't know if he was going anywhere. He might have been able to throw the ball away, and it still might have been grounding, but tripped over the ref. 2 points. I mean, that's a big deal. Like, the Ravens are a good team, so they bounce back. But imagine that happens in the Super Bowl. That happened to the Patriots against the Giants. First play of the game, safety. Brady just threw it to the middle of the effing field. So you just want the refs to be locked in, but you also, in the future, like, they've got to handle this issue. And I believe they will, but at the same time, I don't know if they won't. Because the NFL's never made more money, and the ratings have never been higher, and it's never been better for them. So why change it? You know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And it is broke, but it doesn't seem like it's broke. You're still getting more money. So we'll see how that all goes. Hopefully we just get good refereeing throughout the weekend and good football, no injuries, great games, and I'll get out my predictions later. So look forward to doing that. Stay tuned. I'll have a couple shorts with some of the game scores and hot takes. So tune into that. And yeah, thanks for watching me, guys. Like and subscribe, and we'll get another episode out there on the PAT. See ya.